gloomy looking weather today. Not the ideal filming situation, but again, it is bright on one side. Let's see if it actually changes. And what's going on today? I guess with that in mind, in terms of change, this was kind of an interesting read. Apparently, people in Virginia Tech, it says here, they have created a new shape morphing material. And with this, I guess they used something like a vehicle structure, and then when you change the shape, it can turn into like a flying, I guess, drone, like a quadcopter, so to speak. This one says, this material starts as a flat sheet, but can morph into complex shapes. It's capable of rapidly changing shape. Instantly fixes the material in place and reverses using a liquid metal heater. Kind of reminds me of, like, just say the Terminator or something like that, like the T-1000, where it melts and it morphs. It's kind of, I guess, similar in concept, where they're saying normally that's a disadvantage where you want materials to stay put. But in this case, if you can, I suppose, melt it, so to speak, and morph it into different shapes, with that, it can turn into different vehicles, kind of like what they show here. First, it's something that goes on land, and then it can change to something that flies. And it says here, the material is structured with patterned kirigami cuts, allowing the composite to morph into complex shapes that become fixed to load-bearing structures, while also allowing for large and reversible motions. These materials are changing what soft robots can do. What does that mean ultimately? It says one soft robot can drive, morph, then fly away, allowing machines to evolve when the task requires it. Something like straight out of, I guess, cartoons or a sci-fi movie, huh? And it says robotic components like propulsion systems can be integrated, which introduces complex functionalities to soft robotic systems. That's kind of cool overall, I would say. There probably are a lot of hurdles to go over, because if that thing can melt that easily, I would imagine, depending on the environment, it could totally be a different situation. Put it in a desert, for example, watch it completely melt constantly, I would think anyways. Reminds me where there was one story here before where people were celebrating on how they were using something like vegetable oil to run a bus. They were so happy, like, yes! And then soon when it became winter time, oh no, all the oil basically became like blobs. So like, oh, so disappointing. They didn't factor in like the weather and other circumstances. And this was everywhere here today. I guess everyone around the world has been hearing about that story of the Freedom Convoy here in Canada, where specifically in places like Ottawa, a lot of people have parked things like their trucks in various spots in protest of COVID mandates. They want them gone. For example, things like vaccine passports or lockdowns and all that. Now, it seems anyways from reading the news, a lot of people are actually reversing their decisions in terms of any of these mandates. Whereas here specifically, apparently, I guess they're going even more, which makes me wonder, are we going to have like a huge thing here? Because this one here says, BC expands healthcare vaccine mandate to include doctors, dentists, and other regulated professionals. I actually thought this was already a thing, but I guess they break it down into different, I guess, professions. It says, BC Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry has announced that the province's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers will now include dentists, chiropractors, and other health practitioners regulated by BC's healthcare colleges. Henry made the announcement at a news conference on Wednesday. The vaccination deadline under the new order is March 24th for all healthcare practitioners who were not covered by an initial order on October 26th. And it says here, quote, "It is the vaccine mandate in healthcare that has made a huge difference in our ability to manage through this wave. This is going to be a serious respiratory illness that's going to be with us at least for another year." So does that mean here anyways, another year of closures and all that? Again, it makes me wonder, does that mean we're gonna have huge conflicts here in terms of even bigger protests and all that, considering what's going on around the country currently? Because one thing that was kind of interesting that popped up during this time too, which I don't know, I'm not a health expert or anything like that, I'm just kind of reading this as is, but apparently there was a freedom of information request where they wanted to find out, or somebody I guess, in terms of what are the hospitals like in terms of the situation. Is it being flooded to justify things like lockdowns and stuff like that? So here, this is from the official government sites and all that. It says to the person, "I am writing further to your request received by the Ministry of Health. Your request is for records showing hospitalizations and ICU admissions in BC during the COVID-19 pandemic." And it says date range from 1/1/2015 to 8/27/2021. So it shows the data here in terms of how bad it was. And it says here number of hospitalizations and hospitalizations with intensive care from what, January 1st, as I said, 2015 to March 31st, 2021. So obviously it's missing the period up till now to 2022. But it shows you the numbers here, and just based on these, it looks like it's been consistent, because there's not much the mass majority could do in terms of, I guess, data analysis like this, as opposed to just, again, just making assumptions it could mean this or that. So it'd be great to hear, I guess, a debate in that sense, where people who are in the know explain this, because in terms of things like lockdowns and stuff, there's so many factors, where there's even so many news reports recently of how many people died over things like, say, drug overdose or mental illness, I guess, related incidents because of things like lockdowns, closures, whatever you want to say. So you have to factor everything in as well, correct? So it'll be interesting to see if stuff like this actually creates more, I guess you could say, division in that sense. So hopefully they'll be fully transparent, if that's the right way to say it. Could you imagine if I'll actually see something like what they have in Ottawa currently here because of this? It's been kind of tame just from what I saw anyways. People just honking and so forth. Alright, see you guys later.